If your mind keeps drifting into future versions of your life, there's a reason for that. And it's not what you've been told. You've probably caught yourself doing it, staring off, not really here, completely pulled into a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. Maybe you see yourself running your own business. Maybe you're on a stage, speaking with confidence. Maybe you're just finally living a life that feels right. And then someone snaps you back. Stop daydreaming. Focus. Be realistic. Like something is wrong with you. But here's what most people never question. What if the people who keep imagining their future aren't falling behind at all? What if they're quietly building something most people never even start? Because what looks like distraction on the outside can be deep mental construction on the inside. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. Today, we're breaking down the psychology of people who daydream about future success. And the truth is, science doesn't agree with what you were taught growing up. Not even close. Number one, you don't just have an active imagination. You have a highly developed cognitive tool. And most people never use it properly. Psychology shows that when you drift into those future scenarios, your brain activates something called the default mode network. This is the system connected to creativity, self-reflection, and long-term planning. In other words, this isn't your brain switching off. This is your brain doing some of its most complex work, and most people miss that completely because it doesn't look productive. But here's where it gets interesting. When you don't just think about success, but actually see it, feel it, and build it in detail, your brain starts running simulations. It's not random. It's rehearsal. It's preparation. Elite performers have been using this for decades. Olympic sprinters don't just show up and run. They've already run the race in their minds before they step onto the track. Surgeons don't rely only on real-life training. They mentally walk through complex procedures before touching a single instrument. And the reason this works is simple. The neural pathways your brain builds during vivid visualization are extremely similar to the ones formed during real experience. Let that sink in. Your mind doesn't fully separate imagination from reality at that level. So if you've spent years imagining a life that doesn't exist yet, you haven't been wasting time. You've been training your brain to recognize it when it appears. And most people never do that. Number two, you're not driven by surface-level achievement. You're driven by meaning. And that changes everything. Research shows that people who regularly imagine their future success tend to score high in intrinsic motivation. That means your drive doesn't come from external validation. It comes from something internal. A real need to grow. A real need to feel purpose. And here's the difference most people don't see. You're not just imagining having more. You're imagining becoming someone, and those are not the same thing. Think about the version of yourself you keep coming back to. It's probably not just about money. It's not just about status. It's a feeling. Freedom, control, impact, a sense that your life actually matters, and that gap you feel between who you are right now and who you know you could be. That's not confusion. That's direction. But most people ignore it. They label it as restlessness. They try to shut it down. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. People who listen to that internal signal, even when things are unclear, tend to find their way, not instantly, but consistently. Number three, you process your emotions through story, and that makes you far more resilient than you realize. Psychology shows that when you create future scenarios in your mind, you're not just escaping, you're emotionally preparing. You're testing reactions. You're building responses. So when you imagine yourself speaking confidently or reaching a point where you actually feel proud of your life, you're not fantasizing. You're rehearsing. And that's a sign of high emotional intelligence because you're not avoiding reality. You're preparing for it. You're practicing courage in the one place where it's completely safe, inside your own mind. And this matters more than you think, because think about someone who grew up in a difficult environment, someone who had no clear path, no support, no obvious way forward. But they kept imagining a different life, not just as an escape, but as a way to survive internally. And then one day, opportunities appear, and they recognize them, not because they're lucky, but because they've already seen that life in their minds. They've already lived it internally. That could be you, and in some ways, it already is. Number 4, you think in terms of the future, and that's one of the strongest predictors of long-term success. Research in positive psychology shows that the ability to project yourself forward, to see better outcomes, to believe they're possible, is directly connected to hope, persistence, and psychological flexibility. And these aren't soft traits. These are survival traits. The ability to adapt, to recover, to keep moving when things don't work, because they won't always work. That's reality. And this is where most people break, because if you can't see a better future, it's almost impossible to fight for one. But you can see yours, clearly, emotionally, sometimes so vividly it almost feels uncomfortable. And that intensity, that clarity, is not naive. It's fuel. But here's the part people get wrong. The danger is not in dreaming. The danger is disconnecting the dream from action. That's where people get stuck. But the fact that you're even trying to understand this already separates you, because it means you're not just drifting, you're aware. Number 5, your daydreams are telling you something real about who you are. And this might be the most important part. Psychology shows that recurring mental images are rarely random. The things your mind keeps returning to, the versions of yourself you keep seeing, point to your deepest values, your real desires, your actual potential. And there's a reason you can't let them go, because something in you recognizes them as true. Carl Jung believed that the images that appear naturally in the mind carry meaningful information about who we are and who we're becoming. So your daydreams are not noise. They are a signal. And most people never learn how to listen. But once you start paying attention, everything changes. So the next time you catch yourself drifting into that future version of your life, don't shut it down. Don't apologize. Stay there for a moment. Look at it closely. Ask yourself, what is this really showing me? What do I actually want? And what would it take to close the gap between this and my current reality? Because that gap, that tension, that feeling you can't ignore, that's where direction lives. And here's what you need to understand. You're not someone who daydreams because you're unfocused. You're not unrealistic. You're not behind. You daydream because your inner world is strong, because your sense of purpose is active, because your mind is capable of seeing something that doesn't exist yet. And that is not a weakness. That is the starting point of everything meaningful that has ever been built. Every idea, every breakthrough, every life that changed direction started as something that didn't exist yet. And the version of your future you keep visiting is waiting for you to meet it halfway. If something in this hit deeper than expected, then you already know. This isn't random. And if you want more insights like this, the kind that help you actually understand how your mind works, then this channel is built for you. Stay with it. And if someone came to your mind while you were listening, send this to them. Because sometimes, the one thing a person needs to hear is this: what you feel makes sense, and you're more capable than you've been led to believe.